Welcome back. It's exactly 8:40 a.m. We are now going to be talking with Ali Komapi, Campaigns and Communication Manager at Africa for Palestine. A very good morning to you. Welcome to the show.
Good morning, and thanks for having us.
Lovely to have you here. My concern is everybody is in festive season mood, holiday mood. People are packing up and going on exotic holiday destinations, etc. And this is what happens traditionally this time of year, not only in South Africa but all around the world. What can we do? What can we do to keep the Palestinian issue alive in the media during this time? Um, and also, you know, the story of Palestine not going cold this time of year, or people being very dismissive and saying, give us a break, it's holiday time. A little while ago, I think perhaps a month ago, Gareth Cliff was questioning if the Palestinian story should still be front page news. I was absolutely outraged when I heard that. I think he was making a comment from a Sunday Times editorial piece. And I'm wondering, has the Western world reached that point where they feel that they are tired of listening or having Palestine being front of page news, and now with the festive season are going to completely forget the story of Palestine?
Thanks again for having us. We don't believe the story of Palestine is getting cold. We don't believe it can get cold, simply because of what's happening in Palestine. We can't turn a blind eye. What we do agree on is that there seems to be some kind of apathy when it comes to Palestine to suggest that we know it's happening, it's been happening, we've been protesting, we're tired. What we must understand, and I think we must be honest with each other, that we're dealing with human beings. Of course, people go on holiday, and we can't emotionally blackmail people for not going on holidays. Definitely, people go on holiday. They've been working the entire year. They need to relax with their friends and family. Sure, definitely, no problem with that. But we must not normalize this false narrative that Palestine is getting cold. Of course, every campaign and every protest action and every program that we do for Palestine has its peaks, where it reaches its peak, where we have 20,000 people in the streets of Johannesburg, 20,000 people in the streets of Pretoria, and so on, hundreds and thousands of others in other parts of the country. Yes, we have that peak, but we do not depend on those peaks of campaigns for our humanitarian issues. We depend on the normal day-to-day campaigns that we have. Simply speaking about Palestine to colleagues, to your neighborhood WhatsApp group, on the dinner table, simply speaking to your local councillor or your local member of parliament, writing to them and saying, hey, look, we are demanding a ceasefire. How far is the South African government in pressuring the United States to implement this? So those are day-to-day campaigns that do not require really much energy or really much activity from South Africans, but that's what we expect South Africans to do, because that was done for us during the time of apartheid.
So there may not be any protest action during this time. As you've outlined, people are tired, people are going on holiday, people are going to try and rejuvenate and then hopefully come back in the new year all fired up and pick up on solidarity campaigns once again. Is that what you're hoping is going to happen?
No, definitely not. Protest actions must be organized by those who can. Definitely, I stay in a small neighborhood in Kensington, and one day when I was driving to the shops, I saw about 10 to 20 of my local population of my neighborhood on the robots, on the traffic lights, protesting. That really warmed my heart. They were not organized. It was not a mass organized event. They were together in a neighborhood WhatsApp group, and they said, let's conscientize people busier traffic intersections. So people who want to, who need to, and who should organize protest action, they must. What we are saying is that those who need to go on holiday, those who need to revamp, rejuvenate, re-strategize with their families, their colleagues, their workplaces, their comrades. We know even those who work in the solidarity movement, they're at work. They need to re-strategize with their organizations, their companies. Of course, definitely they should. But those who are able to continue the action on the ground, then why not? Let me give you an example. During this time, we know it's a Christian special day, Christmas Day, the festive season.
Mm.
Christians in the organization called Kairos and others, not only do they go to church, no, they go to church and they preach about Palestine. They have programs, activities, and others, some demonstration during this specific time. It's a very special time for Christians. They use this time to preach and to advocate for Palestine. So those who can, those who must, those who should, definitely should.
Okay, Ali, for people that don't want Palestine to go cold, people that feel that throughout the festive season, at every opportunity, like you indicated in your neighborhood, about 10, 12 people gathered at a traffic light, stood around with placards, possibly for an hour or two. And even if 100 people passed them, that was 100 people that picked up on that notice that there are people who care and are concerned about the plight of the Palestinian people. That was a very informal solidarity, a show of solidarity. Would you encourage such pockets of solidarity informally all around the country? And how do they go about doing it? Do they need special permission, or do they just 10, 12 people on a WhatsApp group get together and decide this Sunday morning, I'm going to go for a coffee to the coffee shop in my neighborhood, and outside of the coffee shop, 10 people or 5 of us are getting together and we're going to hold up placards for half an hour. Is that good enough?
I think what's important is for South Africans to know that the Palestinian struggle belongs to them as much as it belongs to Palestinians. Nelson Mandela said our freedom is incomplete without the freedom of Palestinians. So there's no informal or formal action. I mean, if we're talking about formal actions of massively organized action, then we
Yeah.
can term it that. But the Palestinian struggle belongs to each and every one of us. Every protest action, demonstration, activity, dialogue, or whatever program is run, when it's for Palestinians, it belongs to you, it belongs to your community, it belongs to your family, it belongs to your workplace, and so on. So we don't believe in this formal or informal type of an arrangement, but we believe that the Palestinian struggle belongs to each and every one of us, and each and everyone must take responsibility for Palestine. Um, we think every action is enough. We think every demonstration is enough. For example, South Africans have been calling for the expulsion of the Israeli ambassador from this country for years, for decades, from trade union movements, political parties, solidarity organizations like ourselves, media outlets like yourself, calling for the expulsion of the Israeli ambassador from this country for years, for decades. What's important from the decision of the government to expel or to make the environment not conducive to have the Israeli ambassador in this country, that's simply because of all our efforts from different sectors of society, from different people, from different organizations. So we believe every action is very important. Every action contributes towards our collective efforts towards Palestine. So we can't simply have one, let's say, a political organization dealing with Palestine and we all give our energy to that political organization. No, even faith-based organizations, if you can have programs, activities, demonstrations to put pressure on government in a faith-based organization, do that. If you can do that in your school governing body, do that. So every action from different parts of society is very important simply because it contributes towards our collective effort of the liberation of Palestine.
Okay, Ali, I have 2 more points to raise with you before I let you go this morning. My reference to formal and informal protest action was simply because we do know that larger formal protest action does require a lot of planning and a lot of permission from the JMPD, etc. And that was the reference point, and that is why I mentioned that. And
Mhm.
clearly, if it's just informal 5, 10 people, those protocols don't need to be followed. If you're going to be there for just a half an hour, even for the entire day, but you're not going to be disrupting traffic, and there aren't going to be security issues, etc. And that was the reason why I raised the issue around formal and informal protest actions. So it's okay for 5 or 10 people to go on, even if they're on the beach, put up a flag and just mill around in a few placards. That is making a very strong point, and that is acceptable. Am I correct?
Yes, no. We have a number of legal frameworks that deal with protest action in South Africa. We have a constitutional right to protest. So even if it's 50 or so much people have a constitutional right to protest. Of course, there are exceptions like protesting outside a national key point, like an airport or a presidential offices, so on. But whenever people can gather, the police do not have a right to disperse them, of course, because we have a constitutional right to protest. That's a legal loophole, and I think there are a number of organizations that, like the Muslim Lawyers Organization, that represent activists whenever they are harassed by police. This is just a heads up for our listeners at home.
Mm. Okay, great. So I could then organize 4 or 5 friends and have a very peaceful protest outside on my main street or the main thoroughfare, and knowing that I won't be harassed by the police, and just make my views and stance and support for the Palestinian people known without any formal um, permission from the authorities, because we'll just be a handful of people.
Yes, definitely. In South Africa, you have a constitutional right to protest.
Okay. Okay. Point taken. Let me just ask you put this last question to you. You are well aware that the United Ulama, the UXA, United Council, the Ulama body, met with President Ramaphosa 2 days ago to raise the issue about I think the whole crux of the matter was the misrepresentation by the South African Jewish Board of Directors, who met with President Ramaphosa and gave a very sanitized version of the actual events in Palestine and protest action here in South Africa, and what we as UXA and the people that care for Palestine, the Friends of Palestine, are expecting continued support for the Palestinian people by government and civil society. What came out of that clearly for me is that there seems to be two views on this issue. The one view being that we don't have to ask or call for the expulsion of the Jewish ambassador from South Africa, because that will shut down all avenues of communication between the South African government and and the Israelis. So whatever and whenever the South African government wants to intervene on behalf of the Palestinian people, at least a there is a space or an avenue open for negotiations. The other party or the other view is no, uh, we need to send a very, very strong message by shutting down the embassy and sending back, expelling the ambassador and all of his staff back to Israel, from back to where they come from. What would your view be regarding the situation?
We've had this discussion a number of times with, number one, the African National Congress and the government representative in the diplomatic avenue. It's a legitimate argument, simply because we cannot access Palestine if we do not have relations with Israel. the Zionist regime controls all borders and movements in Palestine, air, sea, land, and for South African diplomats to practice diplomacy on behalf of Palestinians must have permission from Israel. We have had what you call an envoy to Palestine in terms of negotiation. We know that in this country, because of Nelson Mandela, Thabo Mbeki, and others, we have a splendid track record of peace negotiations. We've done it in Zimbabwe, we've done it in Botswana, we've done it in Lesotho, we recently did it in South Sudan. So we do have those avenues, we do have those expertise of putting two parties on the table. They negotiate and there's a peaceful resolution. We have had an envoy to Palestine, different envoys, including Comrade Bahad, Comrade Square, and others who went to Palestine, who were envoys to speak, to make a conducive negotiating arrangement between Palestinians and Israelis. Our argument is, although this process is correct, is legitimate, is encouraged, it has not given us any products or any fruitful resolution for over 30 years. We simply cannot continue embracing a peace process where one party wants peace, where one party wants to sit down, negotiate for a peaceful resolution, and the other party wants to continue practicing apartheid, human rights violation, killing and maiming of the other party. That's a sham process, that's a fraudulent process. So we've said to the South African government, you've tried your best. You simply cannot continue saying you want to be a mediating party when one party does not want to mediate. So you must be honest with yourself as a South African government and say we've tried our best, like we did in Zimbabwe, like we did in Lesotho, like we did in South Sudan. But here is a different case where the colonizer does not want to negotiate. So what do? You go back to the basics. You isolate the regime. You isolate the apartheid regime simply because that's what we did to apartheid. When the apartheid regime refused several times to negotiate with the ANC, to negotiate with the PAC and other liberation parties, what did we do? We went and isolated the apartheid regime diplomatically through channels of the United Nations, the Human Rights Council, and others. So in this case, the South African government is correct to want to negotiate, but they're also incorrect to want to continue facilitating negotiations with a party that does not want to negotiate.
And of course, the big question then is how seriously do they take us as South Africa and the South African government? And is it once again a situation of the global South? And once again, the situation of we are Black people and we don't matter in the eyes of the white supremacists. Your thoughts?
Oh, definitely. We are not taken serious as a equal player diplomatically. Just to give an example, there's a number of United Nations General Assembly resolution. There's a number of United Nations Security Council resolutions that are vetoed by the United States time and time again. We are not equal. We are not seen as equal. The United Nations and other international diplomatic organs still operate as if we're in the colonial era. The Israelis and the West look at us and see an inferior participant in diplomacy, and that's wrong. You are absolutely correct. It smells of racism, it smells of discrimination.
Okay, we're going to wrap up there. Your final words to people going on holiday and how to keep the Palestinian story alive in the minds of themselves and everyone around them.
What we say is Africa of Palestine is just like soccer players. We do not want players on the field who are tired, who don't rest. We encourage people to rejuvenate. We encourage people to relook at their strategies. We encourage people to reflect and come back. So if you're going on a holiday, we encourage you to to relax, re-strategize, rethink about how we're going to achieve our goals in South Africa or Palestine and come back and re-energize person. You're no good. You're no good used to us tired, burned out. So we do not want that. People deserve, especially in festive season, people deserve to rest with their families, their loved ones, and so on. But most importantly, those who are able to continue the action on the ground, please do. We know that being on social media and advocating for Palestine does not take much from you. So, of course, we'll understand the mass demonstration. We can take a break from that and come back in the new season, re-energized, rejuvenated. But continue on your social media, on your dinner table with your friends. Continue speaking about Palestine. Continue having conversations like this on Salam Media about Palestine. But we do encourage people to relax and to enjoy their holidays.
And you can make your voice heard very loudly simply by wearing Palestinian regalia like the keffiyeh, or walk around with a small Palestinian flag, or whatever the case may be. I think that in itself is a strong enough message, is it not?
Definitely, definitely.
Ali Komape, Campaigns and Communications Manager at Africa for Palestine, thank you indeed for your thoughts this morning. And undoubtedly, we're going to have many more conversations in the new year. Please be safe, take care, and God bless.
Thank you for having us.
It is exactly 1 after 9 o'clock. News and views on Salam Media. And of course, Zai Jadwat is standing by with the bulletin of the morning.